on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor baby. Hopefully he'll be,
he'll be fine.
Yeah. She said it could happen for up to 2 weeks, sort of, yeah.
Well, he's got a good little devil looking after him.
He does, he does.
It was good to catch up on the weekend too, by the way.
What a great little barbecue.
It was good, wasn't it? Yeah.
Great to see some members.
For sure. Yeah, and thanks for coming along. It's always good to see sponsors. But getting back to, we were talking about the lungs before, and look, we don't really have a lot of information to talk about it, but granite, granite in the kitchen.
Yes.
There's been a number of workers that have fallen ill with some type of lung ailment. Don't know enough information to sort of talk about it, but yeah, it's
one of those things where people just need to start thinking, what can I do to reduce the toxins, or what can I do to just keep myself, detoxing on a daily basis. We're not going to get rid of the toxins in the world, but apparently some granite bench tops have radon, being emitted.
From what I don't believe it's a danger to people in kitchens, mums and dads and kids in kitchens, but it's the people that cut them to size with the electric saws and things, if they're not wearing the correct facial equipment or mask. It's like asbestosis. It can get into the system somewhere and affect the lungs, but they don't. Well,
just even generally in the house, the two areas that have, like even just thinking formaldehydes and stuff like that. So when we're renovating, a lot of people end up getting chronic fatigue and can start getting health issues because you can imagine when you're building an entire new house, it's everything. It's paints, it's carpets, it's walls, it's glues, and the two areas with the most toxins at the end of renovating tend to be the kitchens and the bathrooms. And of course, if you think about it, they're the areas with more cupboards and surface area of new stuff in there. So, and that's something that I've seen over the years many times. When I start going back through someone's history, mind you, quite often they're renovating, getting a divorce and having a kid at the same time, So, let's not just have one stress at the same time.
Hang on. Having a kid, getting divorced, or getting divorced and having a kid. What order are you putting those in?
Well, depends on the person.
I'm scratching my head with that one.
Yeah.
Also a very interesting program. Once again, we won't mention any brand names. We won't go into that. But I think there was quite a documentary on the ABC the other night about weed killers.
Yeah.
And a company in America that's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Look, it's not a surprise. One of the things naturopathically that any naturopath will tell anyone, if you can afford it, buy organic, especially the dirty dozen foods. So Google the dirty dozen. There's a dozen foods that have the highest levels of pesticides, and if you can buy those organically, or at the very least, just make sure you are washing your fruit and veggies. Make sure. Find yourself. It's often not that much more expensive to buy grass-fed beef or organic chickens, or just making sure that you just do what you can to reduce the load. Yeah. So even things like gluten, you know how the whole celiac thing. So one of the things about celiac is that 1/3 of Australians have the celiac gene. So just going and getting the gut biopsy and saying, no, I don't have celiac, or yes, I do, that really isn't the thing you need to know. Because if you're having issues with something like gluten, is it the gluten? Is it the pesticides? What is it in the wheat that's causing problems? Because at the moment we know there's over 800 types of gluten. So the one in wheat is just one. So the reason gluten is such a big issue is because of the pesticides that are used on wheat crops, and that actually does get into the DNA and mess with lots of ways that our body works. So you can just have the good old, have a bit of bread, get bloated and have gut pain, or you can actually be starting to change yourself on a cellular level, which is why when people are celiac, or they've activated the celiac gene and they're not eating grain-free, the risks are much huger. It's something like 8 times higher risk of breast cancer, and for one thing, so you can imagine if you've got something wrong but you're ignoring it because you can put up with the symptoms, it's creating low-level damage in the background. And I think that was one of my concerns a few years ago. There was a doctor who spoke at Congress maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and he came out and he was very, very proud of himself because for the first time in the medical industry, they had proven that there was such a thing as leaky gut.
Right.
So, of course, naturopaths have been talking about leaky gut forever. So, I've been talking about it for 25 years to clients. Whereas, but he was very, very proud of himself. He said, well, I know you guys have been talking about it forever, but hey, we need proof in the medical industry. So, yep, he'd proven it. And the way he did it was by giving people gluten. And so what he found was that regardless of celiac, everyone on the planet, or everyone that they tested, within 12 to 16 minutes had leaky gut after eating wheat. So that was everyone.
I was just going to talk very quickly. We were talking about celiac and that. I've got a friend of mine that suffers from Crohn's disease.
Yes.
He's probably listening too. You might see him at the airport next Thursday. We won't mention his name, but he's off to Europe as well.
Yeah, right.
So you're going to South America.
We are, yes.
But you could see him at the airport. So if he comes up to you and say, you're Madonna guy.
Yes. I'll say, hey.
Yeah, he suffers from Crohn's disease and all those sorts of grains and things, does that affect that? Can it have a...
Yeah, because Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease. Right. So anything that has a high protein load that the body has a hard time breaking down can cause more issues with ulcerative colitis. One of my clients actually, she's spoken on air about this, so I know she won't mind me mentioning her. She has 3 autoimmune diseases. So she has Crohn's disease as well as psoriatic arthritis and something else I can't remember. But the Crohn's disease, when she got it, the only things medically that they started suggesting were, of course, the big anti-inflammatories. So they suggest things like steroids and immune modulating things. And she felt so bad on them that she really struggled to keep up the doses. So she started doing her own research. And one of the first things she pulled out, because it's a hard thing to digest, is dairy. Now, I know everyone loves their dairy, and I love my dairy. Hey, I would not want to give up cheese for anything in the world. But nonetheless, I don't have 3 autoimmune diseases that I'm in pain with on a daily basis. So I don't have the motivation to do it either. So she pulled back dairy, and the first month she not only went from a size 14 to a size 12, she was feeling pretty good, but her pain went down by about 30%.
Wow.
So that meant she could reduce the dose of the drugs and get rid of some of the side effects, because she was having really major side effects of the medications. So then she started doing some more research, and she found that grains were a big thing. So and this was without the help of the endocrinologist, because the endocrinologist doesn't know. They're not trained in nutrition. They're not trained in autoimmune paleo diets. They're not trained in the GAPS diet. They're not trained in these things. So the only way they're going to know that things work is by you trying something, going back to your specialist and saying, well, actually, I've got my prednisone down from 50 milligrams to 25 milligrams a day. They say, how'd you do that? And I go, well, I took out, grains and dairy, and I've got a lot less pain. So this is what she did the next time when she pulled out grains, she went from a size 12 to a size 10.
Right.
And so which you can imagine is sort of interesting when you're just taking out a food group and you lose weight, but she's still eating heaps. It's just a sign that those were quite inflammatory for her body. And once again, it reduced her pain massively again. So with ulcerative colitis, it's the gut. So it is like the epitome of what is going on in your body that's irritating the heck out of your gut. So it's all about food. It's all about food. So you've got to get the gut working well. So that can be things, if you've got ulcerations, you've got to heal the gut lining. So you can't even do things like digestive enzymes initially, because that's like pouring acid in a wound. So you've got to get the gut lining working well. And the gut lining's made of things like glutamine, vitamin A, E, D, so your essential fatty acids, things like butter, good old butter. So once again, I know I said about dairy, but butter contains butyric acid, I think it's called, and that is something that's a medium chain fatty acid, which helps to heal the gut lining. So you've got to get the gut working really well, and once again, that's more a naturopathic thing than a doctor's thing. So it's just one of those things. Start doing research, things like bone broths.
I was just going to ask you that. Are there many books, pardon me, available?
Oh, many. Absolutely.
Okay, well, when you get back, it's probably something we can talk about is, without sort of promoting and sponsoring any particular writer, but we could give some names of some books that people can get the information.
Absolutely. And even on Facebook, if people Google their disease, quite often there are groups that are associated with that disease. And I know that seems like a weird thing to do on Facebook. But for example, there are Facebooks for the MTHFR gene, so people with that gene, so you can sort of hop on there and there's ones for autoimmune paleo diets. So then you can really start nutting out these things with other people who've been doing it, saying, I'm having a really bad day, I'm sick of spinach
Yeah.
and chicken, and then sort of, get support. And
I know there's a lot of professional people who say don't believe what you read on Google,
Yeah.
because that's the first thing we do now. We reach bang straight for Google.
Oh, Dr. Google,
Yeah,
absolutely,
Dr. Google,
yeah.
Not for 1 minute saying that it's not entertaining and it's good to have an encyclopedia at your fingertips
Yes.
for certain things, but not always the right answers
Yeah.
as far as health is concerned.
Exactly, and sometimes you might be on the right supplements, and we call them Women's Weekly prescribing. Not that there's anything wrong with Women's
No,
Weekly,
no.
but you can imagine I've got people who have been taking things because, one article in there said that for, PMS, you should be taking blah, 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 and they've been taking exactly the same things for 25 years. And I sort of go, gee, that's an expensive way of doing it when you're taking one supplement for magnesium and one for B6 and one for this and one for that and one for something else.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a short break. We have a song coming up for the women who read that particular magazine that you just mentioned. And also, when we come back, we'll be doing a little segment on New Leaf Natural Therapies.
Beautiful.
So looking forward to that one. That's coming up next here on your station, Bay FM.